This is gonna take crackerjack timing, Wang.
Total concentration. You ready, Jack?
I was born ready.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time to talk about the last episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, at least in the first season. It sounds like we might be getting a second season. It's been an interesting journey. I wouldn't say it's, hasn't been presented as like serialized television. It feels like this kind of more of an elongated feature-length film that's pretty long, not really chapters or anything like that. But so we got to this finale. I was expecting to come away with some real closure, some satisfying moments, and that's certainly there, but mostly I came away confused by the characterization. I was like, it feels like they've established some things here, and then they kind of go 180 on a lot of things. So I don't know. I was so busy just thinking, what the hell's going on? That I don't know that I was able to appreciate everything that was happening. But here to talk with me about this is my partner in crime, Skip and Tosh. How you doing?
Hey man, I'm doing as best as it could be expected. Any opportunity that I get to come on Thinking Critical and talk about, some comic books or comic book related content, I feel blessed. So I'm happy to be here and happy to be amongst my main man Wes to talk about this finale episode to this series.
So last week I said this feels like an epilogue, and it was poorly paced in my opinion, and I think I was kind of. I think I was right. They probably could have cut maybe 10 minutes of the boat scene and stuff. Maybe put the first 10 minutes of this episode in there and probably got some better closure at the end. Obviously, we'll be getting to that. But when we get in here, the first thing we get to really see is Sam Wilson is Captain America. He's got the suit on. They did a great job. It looks exactly like he did coming out of the comic book. It actually looked pretty damn good. I'll give him that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it looked good. Obviously, we left off with him opening up the briefcase. That a large storyline from the last episode is, what is he going to do? He knows that he needs to make the decision on if he's going to accept the responsibility that's been passed on to him from Steve Rogers. And obviously, he had accepted it, trained up to that point with the shield. He already had the heart. The heart was inside of the man, and then ultimately, the man went inside of the new vibranium Wakanda tech suit, and we see him appear, and he's made his decision, and he's resolute with it, and he takes action.
Absolutely. We get to see him fight Batroc. Obviously, the first time we saw Batroc, he was fighting Captain America, and he didn't lose. He didn't win, but he didn't lose. He escaped, and that's essentially what we get here, and we find out Batroc is still a badass. They go at it, and he's put in a difficult position. But Falcon is eventually able to escape the confrontation and really start going after some of these hostages that we've seen have been taken. And before we get into the hostage situation, we revisit the Flag Smashers, who we didn't see much in the last episode, and we find out Karli is like, by any means necessary. It's time for if we're going to have to kill the hostages, we'll kill the hostages. We have to die ourselves. We have to die ourselves. So the character herself appears to have been, I don't know, influenced by the super soldier serum, but they're definitely going more and more extreme with their actions and their state of mind as far as this GRC meeting and what they're willing to do.
I would contend that when the first time when Steve Rogers or when Captain America had fought Batroc, that he did win. He did that like backflip kick thing and knocked him out cold, but he had to go check on something else, and that's when Batroc had come to, and then did that explosion thingy, and then that's how he ended up getting away. So I would say that Cap definitely got the upper hand on him. This time around, yes, Sam, he was a little bit more of a force to reckon with when it came to Sam. And there was a little bit more of a personal vendetta against Sam, especially since they had the very first opening action scene in the beginning of the series. So that it was interesting to see how Sam would deal with them. And in this case, Sam was the one that had to go and take off because there were bigger fish to fry, as the hostages ended up getting out of the building due to the Flag Smashers kind of smuggling them out. As far as like Karli, I think it was a natural progression. We saw episodes ago that she went from being all in on just kind of helping these people and then being accepted by people, getting help from people like willing to house them and stuff like that. But there was a network established on up until her, taking more extreme measures and blowing up a building full of innocent people, to basically make their statement and for them to be able to escape. The network grew once they got into New York. We saw that scene of like all those people in the park being down for the cause. So it ultimately grew. And her losing Mama Donia, I think, was the main thing that really radicalized her, because that was her idol that she looked up to, and I looked out for her the most. And it's an emotional beat we see in a lot of stories when a person loses, when a villain loses the person closest to them, they feel like they've lost, kind of like their purpose to live, and then the only thing that they have left to carry out is whatever their agenda is, and that's the ultimate point that Karli had gotten to, and that's where we see her really kind of take that to the next level in this episode.
What did you think about her reaction when she finally saw Sam Wilson in the Captain America like suit, like his Captain America Falcon hybrid suit? Why is she so surprised that he's fighting with the government? He's essentially been on that side all along. Yes, he was negotiating with her, but he wasn't exactly like, let me get you out of here. He was trying to talk her down and bring her in. I'm sure she had to know that at the moment, like, this guy's an Avenger. Of course he's fighting you. You're trying to kill a bunch of people.
I would say her being in the state that she's in, she's past logic. That what you're talking about is a very logical, progression of thought. She's past that. She's, acting out in ways she's lost, her main motivation and inspiration to live and make the change in the world that she felt like needed to be made. And then the only connection that she had to Sam was not a logical one. It was an emotional one. That moment that they had when Sam was leveling with her and said, "Hey, I agree with your cause and what you're trying to accomplish, but the means that you're trying to take to them are wrong, and you need to stop." So there was an understanding that they had, and it was more emotional than it was logical. So now her, last speaking to him, are you going to, are you going to represent a place that doesn't even care for you and see you as an equal and doesn't treat you that way? Or are you just going to represent the people instead of the system? And that's where we left off. So for her to see him now in the suit and he's made his decision, and it's not the decision that she wanted, and she feels like it betrayed all of the conversations that they had talked about. And there was already a little bit of trust loss because I'm just going to call him, U.S. agent. John Walker had interrupted their conversation, and she thought that Sam had set her up. So there was already a little splinter of trust. And then at this point, it's a complete fracture, because more than anything, Sam has completely and utterly made the decision to oppose her with him donning that suit.
All right. So you talked about, losing someone important to you with Mama Donia. Obviously, John Walker lost somebody very important to him, Battlestar. He ends up decapitating what is essentially, depending on how you look at it, an innocent man. He's certainly not the one that killed Battlestar. That was Karli. I don't know how to feel about this. Within a few minutes after seeing what Karli has to say, they have a conversation as he's trying to stop them with the hostages. He's kind of he's got a newly crafted shield, and he's kind of donned the Captain America colors. And she essentially says, I didn't mean to kill your friend. I didn't want to kill anybody that didn't matter. Essentially saying his sacrifice and his death was in vain, and that never mattered for anything. And at that moment, I'm going to be honest, I wanted her to cut her head off too. I did not think that they were going to be able to do that. And I don't know that was the intention of the show, was for me to all of a sudden be backing John Walker again so fast.
I believe it was. I felt a very similar, I felt a similar way. I didn't have the exact same thought, but the emotion was there. How dare you, just the way that you're talking. But again, her being the passion, when I say passion, I don't mean the connotations that we have about passion, the positive parts. I mean being so emotionally led that you're the mental is not connecting anymore. Logic and reasoning and thought is not coming in. So she's just being raw and not having any consideration.
Of death and loss as means to an end, and his death and loss did not help her suit her goals. So it was a worthless death in her mind. I think
right, and in her mind, it's supposed to be I'm trying to level with you. I didn't even want to kill him. and I don't want to kill you, it doesn't further my cause. And like, you're not supposed to pick up on it. Like, oh, okay, okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just sit on the sidelines then. It's like, no, it's supposed to enrage you. You killed someone that's closest to me. Blood was shed all around us, and we've almost died so many times, and we have a strong bond, and I just had to go talk to his family. And this is how you talk about him? His life didn't matter? No, you're going down.
Do you think it was the right move to try and redeem the character so quickly? And at one point, I think Winter Soldier's patting him on the back. They're all this adventure together. He's running after the bad guys with Captain America now and Winter Soldier as like one of the team. It just felt really odd with everything they had done with the character to just try and redeem him that fast. It felt like maybe this should have been in season 2 they were going to get. I was like, why is he the good guy now? It feels too rushed.
I didn't feel like he was the good guy. If we're talking about a more nuanced show where things aren't black and white and there is a lot more gray, then like he stayed within those gray lines. He's not absolved of everything that he did. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Like they're Sam and Bucky or Winter Soldier are trying to take out the Flag Smashers to stop their evil plans. John Walker knew that he lied to Battlestar's family, to Hoskins' family, and didn't actually get the perpetrator who actually took his life. So he's on a mission to go and, right essentially both of his wrongs. So the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And, John Walker was not a terrible person, but he was a flawed person. And he remains a flawed person. He doesn't go back to being a flawless person with a clean record. He remains to be that way. But the heat of battle, and I'm no one to talk to you about that, but in the heat of battle, we know in the heat of a fight, we know how that can galvanize relationships. So it doesn't clean anybody's slate, them on a personal level, who they are as a person, but people together in a fight being galvanized because they are on the same side, it can strengthen those bonds and relationships. And I would say that is more of the message and more of what the storytelling said than John Walker being redeemed.
Well, I took it when Bucky was slapping him on the back and they were running together as a team, that they've forgiven him and he's a hero again, at least in their minds. I was like, this feels off. We kind of saw what we did. Obviously, you've interpreted a little bit different. And I think that's probably, why I was having issues with the characterization. It felt like it was all over the place. Mm-hmm. Now, let's get to some more characterization. Bucky does something really stupid. He's separated from the team. He's supposed to basically track down a member of the Flag Smashers that they've identified that has the hostages. It's a bigger gentleman. And he lets himself get sidetracked on the phone with Karli. And basically, they have a little discussion, but she's just she's taking his attention off of what he was supposed to be doing. And then we get the big reveal once Agent 13, gosh dang it, it's
Sharon Carter.
Sharon Carter. She shows up. We talked about it. She can't be the power broker, right? Obviously, there's a connection, but she's not the power broker. We were all wrong. She was the power broker. She was immediately recognized by Karli when she runs into her. Then Batroc shows up there. He realizes she's the power broker. He tries to blackmail her for twice as much money that he was already owed. And there's a little scene there, and I believe she kills Batroc. That's the way I took it, right?
Yeah. She killed. It was a Mexican standoff. She killed Batroc. Karli shot Sharon. Yeah.
What did you think about that reveal? I found it kind of disappointing. And it doesn't really make sense. Like, she was with Falcon, Winter Soldier in Madripoor, going down to look for, I believe his name was Nagel. The last hope that she has to get the super soldier serum, which is a big part of her plan. That's why she's in this. And she kind of delivered them right down to him. She didn't say, hey, watch my back. I'm going to go get Nagel and tell him, get the hell out of here. These guys are coming here for you. Like, she kind of just led him right to his door. And then it's like, why would she do that if that guy was so important to her?
So first, my feelings about her being the power broker. In a world, especially on YouTube, where a lot of us watch a lot of this content, where it seems like things are either 0 to 1, 0 to 10. I didn't feel like it was very fulfilling, but I didn't feel like it was terrible either. from a storytelling perspective, like, you know, if we get to that technical part, there was an error in the show because they had been making references with male pronouns. Oh, I know him from way back and he's done this. That had been said in previous shows. So this is a actual error that they made within the storytelling, within the scripting of the show. The reveal itself, it wasn't great, but at the same time, I didn't feel like it was terrible. I think it's a good idea, but I think that where it failed, if it failed, you know, or where it failed was the execution itself. So
I'm
overall,
with you 100%.
Yeah, like
I like more exciting. It should have been like, oh my goodness,
right? Exactly.
Like, huh.
Right.
Right.
Oh, okay. She is the power broker.
That's what we were thinking, maybe.
Right. But as far as but her path and her progression and everything, I don't feel like it was outside of the overall MCU, you know, like story that they weave together, and then her individual storyline, and even some things within the comics. She, you know, been double agent and gone back and forth. So that is there, and it wasn't a bad idea. It wasn't executed well. And then the now, as far as Winter Soldier getting distracted, if the person that you're hunting down and looking for comes to your doorstep digitally on a phone call, that like anybody would be a fool not to take it and, you know, to try to get more information. Not so much hear them out, that's a part of it, but you want to get as much intel just purely from the conversation. So I don't knock the storytelling for that aspect. I'm fine with that.
I would just hope that a trained agent like Winter Soldier would be able to talk on the phone and follow the guy.
I mean,
but for the story purposes, he needed to get away so they could have that interaction. Where we, you know, obviously the first thing we see Sharon Carter do is she like uses like a mercury grade to like disintegrate the guy. Like, okay, she's a bad guy.
Oh
she's
yeah,
definitely not
totally.
good. You know, she just murdered that guy. She's not a hero. And this is another problem for me, Skip, and we might disagree on this one. We finally get the confrontation. I was hoping it was going to be John Carter versus Karli, and he would get that victory. That is not what happened. What happened? He joins Bucky, and they're freeing hostages from other members of the Flag Smashers, and that's going on. And then we get the big confrontation, which is actually Sam Wilson versus Karli. They're going at it, and it's a pretty exciting scene. And I feel like Sam Wilson's agency as a hero was removed from him. Like, I think Karli like should have had her finger on a button, like, I'm about to kill them all. There's nothing you can do to stop me. And Sam Wilson is put to the test. Am I willing to put this person down to save these people? How am I going to get myself out of this? You know, where he has this big moral quandary and he has to make a decision. But instead, as they're going through it, he's about to eat it. What's really going to happen? And then Sharon Carter comes up from behind her, the only person that knows she's the power broker, and she shoots her in the back and kills her. I wanted the person that should have put Karli down, I thought should have been Sam. He should have had a very difficult decision to do it to make it more satisfying.
Understandable. If we do go into storytelling, because I know you mentioned like, okay, well, the dude had to get away, so that's why, you know, Bucky, and I'm fine with like things having to happen within stories in order for other things to happen. To me, it's all in how you executed them. So in this particular thing, if I were to say, and I should leave this for last, but I'm just going to address it. If I were to say, okay, in order for Sam to be accepted, have any chance of being accepted for where the story kind of put him and the decision that he has to make from getting the endorsement from Steve and Steve actually asking him, you know, pretty much giving it over to him, to Isaiah Bradley, you know, saying you'd be a fool, no self-respecting black man would ever even want to be Captain America, and then him having to make a decision between those two, and the decision being his to make, not not Steve making him Captain America, and not Isaiah Bradley making a decision and telling him you can't be Captain America, for Sam to decide. Then in this situation, if Sam, with all the news and everything that was around, would have been seen as a murderer, that we're not going to get to that point.
Murderer. She's got her finger on a button. She's about to kill 10 hostages.
Okay, well, let's say him being a killer, because there's a difference between a murderer and a killer. Murder, like, is not justified. Killing can be justified. For him to be a killer, and you know how optics work in this, you know, cell phone camera world that we live in, it would not have gone over. Even for the story, it would not have gone over.
I'm not saying he had to kill her, but putting him in a position and him finding a way to resolve it himself. I thought it was a cop-out to let Sharon Carter do it. Obviously, they needed that so no one would know who the power broker is except us, the viewers. Mm-hmm. And when they accept her back into the CIA and, well, S.H.I.E.L.D., I guess, back into the government life as a super spy, now it's been infiltrated. I understand that part.
Right.
But I just wish it was Sam that got to make the decisive decision, blow, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Now let me share my part, because I was only part. I just wanted to say that part for that. As far, oh no, you're fine. As far as how I received it, it was not satisfying to me that's what happened. I don't feel like Sam's agency got taken away, but I feel like his potentially his opportunity to. And he had been heroic enough, obviously, from all the other footage and everything that they'd captured and what had been documented. But for that to fully be his moment, and for him to not have been subverted, that's I agree with you on that level. And even for the story, for us as viewers, I agree that that was not fulfilling, and that did feel like a subversion. I feel like that's some of the things that people that don't like, obviously the Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi, I feel like those are some of the things, not at that amount, but those are some of the things that pulled us out of it, because there was too much subversion going on. And it wasn't too much subversion in this, but it was at the wrong time to where it wasn't fully satisfying how that part of this episode was resolved. I agree.
Yeah, I would have liked him on his first mission as Captain America to be the one that solved everything, not Sharon Carter kind of saying her own skin. There was a way to do it where nobody knew, but that's neither here nor there. So that was unsatisfying. The revelation of who the power broker was unsatisfying.
Totally.
Also, so we get to the end of this, and obviously Captain America, Bucky, and John Walker have won. Right? Well, in their mind, Sharon Carter, they think she's helped her out. Obviously, she was in there for other nefarious reasons. Mm-hmm. And the hostages are coming out, and these are the members of the GRC. Mm-hmm. Here's the big problem for me, Skip and Tosh. Mm-hmm. During this entire thing, we've been told that the GRC is bad. Mm-hmm. And they even had those creepy commercials that make you think of weird Stepford Wives, communities that are supposed to creep you out. But I don't think anyone ever told me why the GRC was bad or their plans were bad. Mm-hmm. And the senator, when he's talking to Sam Wilson, he said, this is really complicated. You literally had half the world's population disappear and return 5 years later. There's likely no right answer. This is a very complicated thing, and decisions are going to have to be made. And it's not everyone's going to be happy about this, and it's not going to work out in everyone's favor. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they ever pointed out what the GRC was doing wrong, and they never made it. I still don't know what they did was wrong. That is a really weird situation. We've had a situation similar to that. I don't want to go into it because it might offend some people, but it turned out not well. Because there's nothing really you can do that's going to make everyone happy. Mm-hmm. Do you think they really presented the GRC as the ultimate bad guy, or what they were doing, or they really got it across? They just mentioned here that these people think it's wrong, but they never showed you why it's wrong.
I can explain that. So this will be a little bit of a two-parter. The first thing is that there was two sides to it. We were told that the GRC is good, and we were told that the GRC was bad. The GRC was shown as good, like you said, in those multiple commercials and stuff that they had made, and also through the news coverage sources. That's when we were told what the positive.
And it felt like propaganda. It was supposed to make you feel icky. At least that's the way I took it.
Yeah. But not all propaganda is bad. Some of it can be bad, and some of it can be good, and some of it can be benign. But you're right. That is how it was introduced to us. So, there was a little bit of I'm going to keep an eye on these. I'm going to keep if you want to say, a healthy distrust towards these GRC people in this organization. And on the flip side, of course, with the Flag Smashers, they were obviously very bad. The thing about the the GRC, and this is the explanation part now, is they, the world after the blip had happened, the borders were more open. There wasn't as many people. The world was trying to heal, and as a way to all come together, the world had opened up, and it was one world, one people, as the Flag Smashers were always saying. But as things developed, the GRC wanted to come back in. They were going to close the borders back, because people had returned, and then anybody who came back, basically, if you just returned, you weren't going to have a nation that had to claim you. You were basically going to be just cast out and shut out. Same thing. They had talked about it a little.
I thought they were returning everyone to where they came from. Like if you were gone for 5 years, you get to come back to your house. If you were in someone's house that didn't belong to you, you got to go back to where you were before. I thought they were returning everyone to where they were to begin with. That was my interpretation.
Oh, you mean the people that had returning them
everybody?
Back to...
The people that had returned from the blip are going back to their houses. And if you're in their house, you got to go back to where you came from. If you weren't in, if this house is in Austria and you came from Italy, you got to go back to Italy. We got to we have to reset everything.
Yeah.
So we can move forward is the way I took the plan. Certainly not a great plan, but it seemed like a plan.
Right. Yeah. It seemed like a plan. And I'll stand corrected that I can integrate that understanding back into my point, which still puts us in a place where basically like we're resetting that, but still a large portion of those people that are returning, there was a lot of governments that didn't want to claim those people, and we're flourishing and doing better with the amount of resources that they had with having less population, and that would pose an issue for them. And that was going to be the messy part, that the GRC was coming together, all of those people, and trying to hash out and figure out which was the best way to do that. And the way that it seemed like that they were going to go about it still didn't take care of, it didn't lend as much help to the people that were returning. So that's where everybody had a problem, or if we want to say everybody, at least like Sam agreed with Karli that yes, that's an issue. These people that are coming back, and Sam had experienced a little bit of it, not fully, but a little bit of it, aren't going to be getting the same. Essentially, they're going to be second-class citizens to the people that never had to go in the first place. Really?
Karli and her group were concerned that the people returning would get priority status, and all the people that had moved in and maybe taken up jobs and made these cultures flourish, or these societies flourish, would be kicked out, have to go back to where they came from, to their old lives where maybe they weren't as prosperous.
Then I would agree with you there that it wasn't as clear as it could have been with the whole GRC thing. Now, the second part to it, and I'll make this quick, is that we know there was or at least it was heavily rumored, let's not say we know, but it was heavily rumored before the pandemic even happened, that there was a pandemic storyline that was within this, and they had to completely remove that whole point and rearrange kind of what the motives were, and do massive reshoots after they got cleared up to do reshoots after the pandemic had started. So that does play a role in it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna be transparent. I am gonna be slightly forgiving for these people having to remove something to be sensitive to the world and what it went through and lives being lost, and then also being sensitive to the fact that they had to rewrite a large portion that was in the show and then do reshoots just to make it happen. So while I'm judging the content that's in front of me and also keeping that in mind, I can reconcile both, and I could say I'm going to be sympathetic to them having to deal with that. But it is the source, I believe, it is the source of why the GRC was not so well defined, why Karli was not nearly as sympathetic of a villain as the show was trying to present her to be.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is, like, me, Skip. We talk behind the scenes. Am I skeptical of government?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Am I a big proponent of the government and all that? They got all the solutions. That ain't me.
No, not at all.
But I just think within the confines of the story, I'm like, well, you got to tell me why the GRC is bad, or you got to show me, rather than there's camps. Well, okay, what are the camps doing? What's the purpose of them? They never really spelled it out. So that's why when we get to this big moment, the first real Captain America moment, not in action, but as a leader, obviously Sam Wilson has to change. He's no longer Falcon, a hero in his own right, and an Avenger. He's Captain America now, a leader of the Avengers. He's going to have to be a little bit different. But when he was just like kind of dressing down the members of the GRC and like kind of talking down to them, like, what were they doing that was wrong? I don't think it was ever explained. So it kind of made him look a bit like a douchebag, in my opinion. I was like, and the guy's like, listen, this is really complicated. I'm going, that really is complicated. We had something similar to this happen, and it was very complicated, and it didn't work out very well. This is a complicated situation, and I don't know. It just didn't feel like Falcon in a leadership role. Like he had a different personality at this point. The reason Falcon's one of my favorite members of the MCU, maybe not my favorite Marvel character in comics, but I really liked him in the MCU. I felt he stood out because he had a distinct personality, he had a distinct point of view, but like he came across as just kind of cool. And in this moment, I didn't think he was cool. I thought he was kind of a dick, and not in a good way.
I can understand why you would feel that way. I completely felt the opposite. I felt like after someone disappears for 5 years, comes back to a world that has changed, and they put their life on the line to defend the entire galaxy essentially, and then come back to just a simple planet that has changed so much in a way that it's difficult for their family to, you know, get a foothold in and sustain. And then they see that this problem goes beyond them. That's a whole thing in itself. And then also to be going from a role where he was more of a, you know, like I hate to use the word sidekick, but he was more of an accessory.
He was a member. I don't think he was ever a sidekick. Like he was a member, but he wasn't the leader.
Okay, sure. Well, let's say that for the sake of the conversation. So he going from being a member and being able to lean more of the leadership that was in front of him to going and having to now be a leader. And I'm not even going to go as far as to say that he needs to be the leader of the Avengers, because Steve Rogers was, but I don't necessarily think that Sam Wilson has to, because he's Captain America now. The Avengers go beyond just the states, obviously, but for him to have to be more of a leader in this particular situation and moment, I think of all the times, and if we're going to make this relatable, I think of all the times where I was working with someone and they were like shoulder to shoulder with me in rank, and then they became a supervisor and they had to be more authoritative for their role because that's what it called for. Majority of the times until I got older, I did feel like they were being a dick. I'm like, why are you like being more authoritative, like giving more commands and bossing things around a little bit more? But that's what comes with the role. So I'm not going to knock Sam Wilson for with his experience, everything that he's experienced from coming back from the blip, and then also through this journey, you know, in just these 6 episodes, and then think that he's a dick just because he's accepted a responsibility that was offered to him, and he's being more authoritative and sharing his experience and what he feels like is the best ideas after seeing that he feels like there was a flaw in the way that this group was trying to come up with solutions. I'm not going to paint him that way just because of that. And I think that was part of the thing about this show. Like I don't expect someone to go through so much and stay the same. Like, yeah, I feel like everybody's usually always a little cooler in their minds when they are just laid back and chill. But when it's time to lay down the law, and they do, 2 things happen in our minds. Either 1, we start to feel like you expressed, or 2, if we can see any value in what they are doing, a level of respect rises for them. And that's what I felt like for Sam. I respected him more as a character, going through all of these things and ultimately coming out to this, and then laying down what he feels like, you know, is going to be the best way to go about it and have an opinion on it.
Yeah, obviously we came away with 2 completely different reactions. I was like,
yeah,
this guy comes, I don't even recognize this character, but obviously that is the new Captain America. And then we start to get some more epilogue as far as the finalities. And now we get some really cool stuff that I really like. And then we got some other stuff. I'm like, what the hell are they doing here? And why they probably should have like put the first 10 minutes of this episode in the last one, and maybe gave some more time to breathe as far as the finality here. Now, what I did like is Sam Wilson going back to visit Isaiah Bradley, and I wouldn't say that he was gave him a big hug and was like, you are Black Captain America. I didn't think it was possible, but he respected him for his decision. And I like that in the end, while they had 2 opposing points of view, there was mutual respect.
Yeah, very much appreciated that it wasn't a whole like, come here, you big old new Black Captain America. You know, like that would not have felt.
Called him a sellout or something. You know, he's like,
or
you made your
sellout,
decision. You have your information. But that wasn't it. He's also said, you know what? You need to be acknowledged in your history, what you've done. And now within the Captain America Museum, there is a statue of Isaiah Bradley. And hopefully there's a big commemoration talking about what the man went through and what he accomplished. Absolutely. So now people will know what he did.
Definitely. And this is the part where they crept up on me. I did not expect to feel this. And some of y'all getting ready to hear this might be shocked, but I'm going to come up here and I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm going to be transparent. And I hope y'all know Skip to be real. I cried. I cried when he went back to Isaiah Bradley and that had that conversation, and there was mutual respect. And I did not expect to feel that. A lot of emotions and different things came out of me that I did not expect to feel as I'm waking up in the morning and watching the show, and it's coming into a conclusion. And I had some of the positives that I felt from the show and then some of the negatives that I felt from the show. And then Sam telling him, like wash up, I got something to show you. And then going to that part, I had kind of already like stopped crying, and I was kind of like coming out of there, doing that whole thing. And then they went in there and seeing his statue and what they had added and all of that, and that part of his history being acknowledged. I have like people in my family that are connected to like some of the syphilis things that had happened, the experimentations that they're doing, some of the Tuskegee airmen and all of that stuff, and just various parts of the history that, it kind of been shoved away and not respected. To see that acknowledgement, I did not think it was going to hit me like that. But I cried more on that part than I did on the part before. It hit me, and I was sitting up there and I was thinking to myself, how I felt about all new, all different Marvel and when it came out and all those things and some of the problems that we talk about in the comics. And it came back to something that we talked about early, West. It's not, sometimes they were just flat out ideas, but when they did have good ideas, sometimes they just weren't executed well enough. But when you do have one and you can execute it well, it crept up and it surprised me. And I was like, it doesn't make the decisions that they did in the comics, any better. It can't change that. But what I can say is, damn it, MCU, you look at what the comics did and then you find a better way to execute it and make it better. And damn, man. And at the end, it wasn't Falcon and Winter Soldier anymore. It was Captain America and Winter Soldier. They got me, man. Absolutely. They got me.
So there's a couple other things that kind of happened here on the end. And thank you so much for sharing that. I personally appreciated the way that it was executed. I thought they ended that story thread perfectly, and I'm glad it obviously it emotionally affected you even more. So I'm glad you got that payoff that we've been waiting for. So we do know John Walker is now U.S. agent. He's got the U.S. agent uniform on, and he's working for, I believe it's, Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So you think it's Sword? Mm-hmm.
No, what's his Nick Fury's ex-girlfriend? She's like a Hydra agent, or was. She's recruited him to be something.
Contessa. I always call her Contessa. Yeah, or they call her Val. Yeah, DeFontaine. Yeah.
So she's recruited him to be something.
Yeah.
Is he Hydra? Agent. Is he going to be working for the U.S. government? Is he going to be doing something else? We don't know. But it feels like maybe he was redeemed, maybe he wasn't redeemed, but U.S. agent is a thing in the MCU now. And so that was the payoff, I guess, for John Walker. I would have personally preferred him to visit Battlestar's family again.
Yeah.
And maybe confess and apologize, but say I got it taken care of. But,
yes. I agree.
U.S. agent.
Yeah. I think it's either Sword, like you talked about, or I think it's Thunderbolts, because again, I don't believe that he was redeemed, but I think he is seen as useful, and someone, Contessa DeFontaine, whatever organization that she's working for, which is probably linked with General Ross and potentially the Thunderbolts, I think they see he's useful and they're looking to utilize him. And I think after feeling like he got thrown away for his country and then going back and seeing that he is effective, he's taken a super soldier serum, I think he's just like, I'm just glad that someone appreciates the talents that I have, the experience, and I'm going to be utilized.
So that's the end of John Walker. I imagine we're going to see him later. Now, the most unfulfilling part was the part with Yuri that was set up in the very first episode, that he is killed. Like, his only friend in the world is this older, Asian gentleman. His son was murdered by the Winter Soldier. Obviously, he was under the influence at the time, and he needs to make amends. He goes and he says, "I'm sorry," and it's like, it's over. Like, feels like this probably deserved a little more time.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I almost forgot about it as one of my negative critiques about in this case, the show as a whole, because that was a storyline. Or not the show as a whole, but this storyline, I said it when they first set that up, that didn't get enough time and it felt rushed. And here it felt the same thing. It just felt like it was rushed. And Wes, I honestly don't understand why they couldn't have given both episodes an extra 3 minutes, or 2.5 minutes to flesh these parts out. They're on the streaming platform that the company owns. Why did it have to feel rushed? I don't get that.
In the first episode, he should have sat down and was like, is that your son? What happened to him? What did he mean to you? Then, establish why he needs to make amends, rather than, I killed this guy and that was his son. And so that was unfulfilling to me. And then what was the other thing that we got? We got a shrimp boil. That was
I love that part. I got family from the South. I love that part, man. It felt like home.
Yeah, and so that was kind of like the last big scene. We got kids hanging on Winter Soldier's arm, and I think that was just really to demonstrate that these guys, they're not colleagues, they're not brothers in arms, they're just brothers now. They're family. Yeah, and I think it did that very well.
That was, again, as Captain America being my favorite character in Marvel as a whole, and same even in the MCU. Like, for him to be the reason why they even met, and then for him to be taken away, and they both have to figure out how to live their lives without him, and kind of being in his shadow a little bit, and then them being at odds, for them to finally come and the spirit of the spirit of Steve Rogers being the reason, ultimately why they came back together, and all these events just kind of like supported that. That felt super gratifying. Like, I was happy to see that. It was cool to see them together. It was cool that they can easily rely on each other now. And Sam has, accepted James into, as being part of his family. All of that felt so good. It felt like closure for both of them, and it felt like a really good launch pad moving forward, because I want to see more Winter Soldier. I love Sebastian Stan as Winter Soldier. Anthony Mackie has been one of my favorite actors in Hollywood for a long time, for his various roles and his charisma that he has. Anybody that's watched the behind the scenes stuff from Winter Soldier and Civil War would know that, like, he's like a lively force on the set and kind of like is a glue guy. So to know that we're going to get more of them together, and all the chemistry they had before this show and now during the show, after the show, it could be cool. Man, it felt good to me. I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
part.
Winter Soldier, Bucky needs a family.
Exactly.
His family's all gone. He's a man alone, and now he's got somebody to lean on. There's one part I forgot about, and I found this to be almost throw in at the end. There was 4 members of the Flag Smashers that put it in a police car. What the police guy is like, one world, one people, or whatever, closes the door. You're like, oh, they're going to be escaped. And it turns out Zemo got the last laugh, and he blows up the vehicle and murders all 4 of them. It felt like it was just thrown in there. We don't know how he orchestrated that from like the world's most secure prison, like in the ocean. But
it was his butler that had carried out his orders. Yeah, it definitely did feel thrown in. But I will say, it did work a little bit more for me than I thought when I had seen what was happening. It was like they're gonna get away, so we're gonna get more Flag Smashers because the police is like one of the people that's down with it, and then like boom, and then it blows up, and I was like, why would the police blow it up? And then I'm like, oh, Zemo's butler, and then they show Zemo. So like definitely felt a little kind of hacked in, if you will, but I did appreciate it, and I am happy to know that Daniel Bruhl's new Zemo 2.0, my Zemo, is going to still be in the MCU. We're going to get more of them.
All right, so this has obviously been a long review. We had a lot of stuff to get through. There was a lot of things happening in here. There's 3 standout moments for me. It's Falcon, or not Falcon anymore. He's Captain America. It's Sam Wilson showing up in the very opening, as Captain America. You get the reveal. The costume looks great. Looks right out of the comic book. I quite enjoyed that. I thought the resolution with Isaiah Bradley was really good. We get the family moment at the end. I thought that was executed well. I was just a little bit disappointed. I don't think they ever really, the GRC was ever painted as just what they were doing was evil. I still don't understand what was wrong with what they were doing. I think they were trying to paint the Flag Smashers, and Karli specifically, is very sympathetic. I don't think that translated well by the end. I wanted John Walker to kill her, even though I think he's awful. They try to, John Walker, is he redeemed? Is he not redeemed? He is a USA agent. I did not love the fact that they were running together and patting each other on the back like he was a member of the team again. The Sharon Carter as the power broker reveal fell a little bit flat. So there's some definite highs in here. There's some lows for me. I'm going to give it like a 2.5 star out of 5. I think it's the weakest episode out of the whole season, just because the characterization felt like it was all over the map.
Gotcha. I appreciated the show overall. They never wanted to be at odds with John Walker, and he made a mistake. They were never like a sworn enemies. So for them to find a way to, like bond a little bit more and everything, I was completely okay with. I loved Sam Wilson's progression through this. I appreciated Winter Soldier's progression through this, but it was taken out at the knees a little bit. Sebastian Stan still shines just with his performance and his characterization. I do feel that the characterizations were a little more consistent than you do, but and I'm agree to disagree there. Totally cool with that. And ultimately, I was satisfied. I actually ended up enjoying this more than WandaVision, and I didn't think that was going to be the case until the very end, and it concluded. And I wanted to make sure I got the last episode before I made that decision. I'm going to go a little higher than you. I'm going to go 3.75 on this series.
All right, well, this is the end of the second MCU series on Disney+. We do have Loki coming up very soon. Skip, do you want to do that series too? Like, are we going to come back for Loki?
Don't hold me to it, because I'm not the biggest Loki fan. I'm kind of over Loki. I know a lot of people are like Loki. I feel like if we want to talk about people that have been overutilized too much and died and came back and died and came back and died and came back, and I thought his death was fitting in or Infinity War or Endgame or Infinity War, and then they find another way to bring him back. I don't know,
He's
but
not
I will
coming back. This is a prequel.
Well, right. It's a prequel, but in my, I mean, you're right. And unfortunately in my mind, I'm just like, it's a previous Loki. It's just another way to bring Loki back. But what I will say is I'm very interested in the Time Variance Authority. Wes, can I watch the first one and then make a commitment? Or
all I'm saying is Skip is a man of the people. If you want Skip to come on the show and review Loki with me, put it in the comments. If he sees it enough, he'll feel obligated. It's up to you, the viewers, whether it's going to happen or not.
He's right. All right, I will let y'all decide. If y'all want me to come back and review the Loki series, I will do it, and I will be down the middle. I will not bring my bias into it as much as I can. So put it in the comments if you want me to come back and bother Wes some more.
All right, Skip, I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right, thanks, man. Talk to y'all later.